All right, so here is part two of the sugar cravings. Part two. So if you didn't see yesterday's part, you can go check it out. Part two today, I'm going to focus primarily on just that third one that I was talking about yesterday, where you know that the sugar craving is an emotional aspect and you want to turn towards the emotional part and you want to get past that part for good. Um, and the signs of that would be that you're also sick of dieting and you don't want to do the yo yo thing anymore. And like the thought of deprivation, the thought of having to, try and like do an uphill battle to make something happen is like just too strenuous and too exhausting to even think about. This is when we would want to, yeah, do the opposite of actually learning how to feel the feelings, which at the end of the day is how you can have permanent weight loss. Because if you're not actually working on feeling the feelings that cause the craving in the first place, and you're just working on eliminating, and you're just working on, trying to do another 30-day fast or whatever it is, like that will give you temporary results. It'll give you new awarenesses. It will give you, you know, things like that. Like it'll give you feedback on like the way that you feel without it, totally cool. But you will not get the permanent lasting results. So, yeah, you won't get the permanent lasting results if you are just doing like an elimination or whatever. It's like, why are the cravings happening in the first place? Right? So, number one, are you making sugar bad? I would be surprised if your answer was no. Okay, because there's so much science, there's so much research, there's so much everything that says that sugar is bad, right? When I used to buy into the belief that I was a sugar addict or a food addict, I knew how the dopamine, the serotonin, like all the chemicals of what sugar does in the body and how it really lights you up and gives you that, like kind of drug addict kind of spark of energy, and how it was bad and wrong and how it created this whole cascade of, emotions or just anxiety and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that some of that stuff isn't happening, but I am saying that when you come from diet mentality and you're making those things bad and wrong, it only like knowing that stuff doesn't make a difference. Like knowing about how like the how the chemical things are happening in the brain does not necessarily actually create any kind of you getting a different result when it comes to the way that you eat and the way that you end up in a like just being able to be a normal eater. Like knowing that doesn't help you be a normal eater. Why? Because if you believe you're an addict and you believe you can't control yourself and you believe sugar is bad, you eat that stuff. When you do like fall off track, you're binging. And then for, you're like, 40 days perfect on a diet, you lose a bunch of weight. And then you have like 100 days because you mess it up one day of then completely eating all that stuff because you've been telling your unconscious mind you can't have it. And kids hate that. Your unconscious mind is like this little kid part of you, and you're like being mean to it and saying you can never have that ever again. And it's like, there's a kickback. And then that's when you're looking at photographs of yourself from a year ago, 10 years ago, and saying, I remember I was miserable in my body that day and I looked way better than I do now. Okay. And it's like, why is that? It's like, because we're not working on these internal aspects. We're not actually getting to the bottom of what's happening with your food, your relationship with your emotions, and your relationship with food. So, number one, are you making sugar bad? If you are labeling any foods as bad, dairy is bad, gluten is bad, blah, blah, blah is bad. When you get stressed out and when you aren't perfect, or when you go and sneak behind your family's back and, out to everybody else in the world, you're saying, I eat so clean and so great. And then you fall off track and then you're eating like the worst food ever. And it's like you can tell that it's just this big fraud, like inauthentic thing that's happening. Like that sucks. That's not going to work. Um, you got to let go of the labels. And, that's not an easy thing to do, but it's like there's no judgment on yourself. Like, let that be what it is. And it takes this charge away, and then you can kind of relax. Number one, take the labels off. And number two, actually be present and go into the body and actually experience the way that you're feeling. So, when you're craving that alcohol, or you're craving, because it's a form of sugar too, you're craving that, you know, whatever, and you want to just have that thing. It's like, what's happening? Like, are you emotional about something else? Did somebody make you angry? Did you have a tough conversation? Are you concerned about finances? Are you concerned about, right? Like, these are the things that cause you to have that craving in the first place. And so if you're not addressing those things, if you don't have a safe place to talk about those things, then guess what? Like, food becomes your best friend. And then once you get off track and you start doing a whole sugar binge because you just let yourself have a little, and now all of a sudden we're going to have a lot because we believe we're an addict and that we're out of control, then you're going to only focus on the fact that the food is the problem and say it's the weight, it's the food, it's the addiction. But in reality, it's not that. It's the fact that you're trying to cover up what's happening, right? You're judging yourself. You're living in the world of morality of good, bad, right, and wrong. You're good, bad, right, and wrong. Your food, good, bad, right, and wrong. You have these high expectations on yourself. Maybe you're falling into perfectionist mentality where you're like, I'm supposed to get to a place. Okay, the way to get to the place where you have total peace around food is actually a little bit more painful and a little bit more like having to dig underneath the surface in order to have that peace that lasts. It's the most amazing work in the world. Okay, I was just talking to a colleague the other day, and they, have a community of people that are striving to get peaceful around their food. But the part that's missing is they don't have an actual how to get there. And the truth is that in order to get there, it's a bumpier road than just like it's great to have the intention, it's great to know what you want it to be, but if you don't have the tools to actually like feel the pain and like dig into your life and actually ask those more challenging questions and get to the bottom of that, of like, why is this food thing happening for you in the first place? Like, why is sugar such a thing for you? Like, are you like me, where as a kid, like, you took on the responsibility of like being the caretaker of the family, and now you like bottle in all of your emotions, and like it just became a habit where like food became the way to, and like you never even learned how to communicate your truth and what to say and like how to address things in life or go towards things that are challenging versus just like, oh, like, can we just like not go there? Like, what is it for you? Like, have you just lost someone? Are you grieving the death of someone you care about in your life? Like, are you lonely? Are you sad? Are you concerned? Are you fearful? Like, there's a lot going on in the world right now with the COVID and everything else. Like, you know, like, are you taking good care of yourself in those ways? Is the food thing just like a mask or like a of what you think is the problem, but it's not actually the case? Okay, so those are what I want you to take away today is just like, are you judging yourself? Are you judging the food? And are you actually aware of the way that you're feeling and taking care of what's going on in your life? And if you're not doing that, it's time to get support. It's like, what's the payoff of keep trying to do it by yourself over and over again? I remember before, like, I never asked for help, and I'd always be like, I can do it myself. And then one day I woke up and it was just like, what am I getting from saying that I can do it by myself? Like, why am I doing that? Like, I'm only failing faster and like wasting my life and my days away by not actually paying someone to get help that I need, that they have for me right there. So, yeah. Just how can you love yourself enough to not have to do this painful cycle anymore? Sugar is a hot topic. It's real. Yeah. Call it the nurse in me. Just don't want you to suffer anymore. So anyway, love you guys so much, and hope you have an awesome day.